Hi, welcome to Enter the Bunker, where we launch you into thriving. Each week we talk about a different virtue that can be used as a building brick to build your own personal bunkers. We share personal stories, as well as tips and tricks to help you thrive instead of survive. So sit down, relax, and enter the bunker.
Hello, and welcome to Enter the Bunker. This week's building brick is Loyalty Part 2. My name's Kelly.
And I'm Jonathan.
And we're going to go over some tips on how to become a more loyal person.
Here we go.
Being loyal to those around you can be a challenge as it can require patience and generosity. You must maintain boundaries so you can be loyal in a productive way to you and them.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a really good
Summation.
Yeah. What'd you say? Summation?
Summation, yes.
Ooh, that's a good word. I even know. Okay. Okay. 3 ways. 1, I'll go over them each all together and then we'll talk about each one. Yeah. 1, be supportive and generous. 2, be honest and trustworthy. And 3, maintain healthy boundaries. So I actually think this is like 5 ways because we have supportive and generous. That's 2 ways. And then we have honest and trustworthy. That's 3, 4. And then maintain healthy. We'll just combine them all together.
Okay.
All right. So be supportive and generous. You show loyalty to people by showing interest in their goals and dreams. Ask them questions about it. And if they ask you for help to reach a goal, support them as much as you are able to. For example, if a friend's dream is to be a musician, you can support them by going to their shows. Be a good listener and be present when they are talking to you. Avoid interrupting when you are talking and allow them to express their thoughts. When someone confides in you, don't break the trust. It can take a huge amount of courage for someone to open up to you, and you can show your loyalty to them by being there. Being supportive emotionally too, offer positive solutions or ideas that they may not be seeing for themselves. So we've talked a lot actually in the past about being like an open, active listener.
Right.
Yeah.
And in this case, I think where the generosity comes in is with time.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all of this takes time.
Mhm.
And so that's how you develop loyalty, knowing that that person is there for you.
Yeah. And
Right.
then when you give them their time, during that time, you're being supportive for them. So,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. That's it. I feel like that's a pretty simple one.
Really? Okay.
Oh, maybe not for all people.
Well, this is how, I mean, if you're going to build this building brick, it takes being proactive in terms of being an active listener.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Which I guess I already know that I'm a pretty active listener, so it is easier for me.
Yeah.
But the other ones might not be.
there you go.
Yeah.
But, so number 1, make sure that you're actively listening, like
Mhm.
we talked about before. Be generous with your time,
Mhm.
and that is one way that we're going to build loyalty with people.
Okay, number 2, be honest and trustworthy. Always be honest. Loyalty is based on being honest and straightforward. Make sure everything you say is backed up by your actions. There isn't a faster way to lose your loyalty than to be seen as being a liar or untrustworthy. When you say you're going to do something, make sure you have the time and ability to do it. This speaks further to not being seen as a liar or untrustworthy. Following through on what you promise others will show them that they can count on you and trust that you will be there for them. This reminds me of my kids, actually. I have to be very careful on what I say I will do versus we might do that. Like if I say, yes, well, like I just have to be careful with what you say to them because they'll hold you to it. And then you're a liar, Mom. Like that's the last thing you want to hear. Like I do not, like, I don't want to I feel when they say that to me, I feel like that's probably like one of the worst feelings as a mom because I don't want to let them down. Like, yeah, that's not a good feeling. I mean, and they might throw it out more than an adult would and not fully know them, but still it hurts.
Yeah. And for kids, I mean, that kind of stuff is like the world to them.
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah.
it's all they've got. And so they really hold on to those types of things.
Yeah.
Whereas as you get older, there's lots of things that are being promised to you all the time that they don't come through on.
So you get a little more used to it.
You get used to being able to, and it almost infects you because then you think, well, that's okay if I do that too. And then your kids catch you doing it. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's what's happening.
So this one story I'm thinking about is bowling.
Okay.
I told them we'd go bowling and then we didn't end up. And you said we'd go bowling on the weekend. We just end up having a busier weekend than what it was. But you said something that actually made me. So say I have a bowling trip planned with my friends and it got canceled. Secretly, I probably would be a little happy, So
Right.
it's not. I wouldn't be let down. I'd be like, oh, I get to stay in my pajamas and do nothing. Like this is not do nothing. Depending, I don't know. You never know. But you could be happy in the situation. You're not always feeling let down. But for a kid, like you said, it's their everything.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But in this case, I mean, when we're talking about honesty and loyalty, and I'm thinking about business relationships
Yep.
when we're talking about this, because when it comes to being a loyal customer,
Yes.
right, is what a lot of people are. And what is it that drives you to be a loyal customer? It's when the people when the business you're dealing with is honest with you.
Yep.
And it's when they say they're going to deliver by X date, they actually deliver by X date, right? And they do what they say they'll do, right? And that's what this is all about, is just do as you say and say as you do,
Say as you do, yep.
right? And it sounds so simple when you say it, but in practice, it could be a challenge
It can be.
depending on how you present yourself. So there's a popular saying in sales, under promise, over deliver,
Over-deliver. Yep.
right? What does everybody else do? Over promise and
Under-deliver.
under deliver,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that is the quickest way to lose loyalty from somebody, is that when somebody feeds you a bunch of bull and then you say, okay, yeah, sounds great. And you're all like, starry eyed, I'm going to have all this. And then next thing you know, they're like, oh, sorry, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And
Yeah.
then it just goes down, 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 down.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're just feeling completely deflated.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, do you still trust that person? Nope. You're just kind of like, eventually, depending on the circumstances, you
Yeah.
might go, oh, that person completely manipulated me. Or you might go, well, it's because of the circumstances. Maybe I'll give them a second chance.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff is kind of what you go through your head.
Yep.
But right there, you're already having challenges with like, well, am I going to come back to that person again? Like, are you going to be loyal with them
Mhm.
after all of that?
Mhm.
Probably not.
Right.
Right. You're going to be like, let's see if I could do better. Then you're going to go looking for someone else to deal with. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many times have we dealt with like some kind of a supplier or some kind of a service provider where even just in the first couple of, even just getting a quote for something,
Yeah.
you immediately start to be like, okay, they said they'd call me back, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, they said that they would get me a quote in the next few days, but here we are next week and it's
There's
not here.
nothing.
So this kind of stuff really, it has a huge impact in terms of how successful you're going to be.
Yeah.
So in order to win the loyalty of customers, you have to be consistent on this point.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
in terms of my personal experience, I like to I like to be open and honest about what's going on and what's happening all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a challenge with some of the things I'm dealing with, because perception from the customer per se
Mm-hmm.
doesn't actually, it's almost like they want it to be something else, so they don't really acknowledge what you're telling them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm telling
They're
you,
not being loyal to you.
I'm telling you the honest truth here.
Yeah.
But then there's something else going on in their head, and they're just like, no. It's like same thing with a car salesman. It's kind of like if you buy a car from a car salesman,
Mhm.
and you feel at first that you got a good deal, right? And
Yep.
he was, and at that time, the salesman was telling you everything he had to tell you
Yeah.
about that sale.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, you drive the car around or something like that, and then suddenly it's like, oh, wait a minute, I thought there would also be this, and this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I thought this car would get this kind of mileage or something like that.
Yeah.
right?
You didn't even. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then you may go back to the car dealer and say, yeah, I told you it gets this kind of mileage.
Yeah.
But then in the back of your mind, you're playing this thing of like, that car salesman tricked me. That car salesman didn't tell me the truth.
Yeah.
That car salesman, and then you start to play this game of
Yeah.
like with yourself to justify your feelings.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to like shout it out sometimes to get across to people. So when you're dealing like in business, so if you're in business and
Yeah.
you have customers, you want to be able to be very clear with them
Mhm.
about everything up front, even the stuff that potentially is gonna not help you with the sale, for example, right?
Right.
Like, so like the process of getting a quote, you want to be very clear, saying like, I'm going to get back to you within 2 days, right?
Yeah.
And get back to them within 2 days,
Yeah.
right? No matter what,
Yeah.
right? I find myself challenged with this sometimes when it comes to appointments. That's where I'm having trouble with like keeping those appointments, and I feel like sometimes I lose loyalty from people in that sense.
Right.
And it's only because I double book and triple book in my calendar. Sometimes I miss stuff. And then I'm just like, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating, but make up for it after. So
Yeah.
just be honest and just tell them like terribly, like,
That's the only thing you can be
that's all you can do. Yeah.
at that point. Yeah.
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 Anyways, that's not.
Okay. Number 3, maintain healthy boundaries. Interesting. Okay. Loyalty should be earned, not expected or demanded. You should give your loyalty to someone because you want to and for no other reason. You shouldn't feel obligated to be loyal to someone who demands it. You should choose to be loyal to those you trust and believe in. Being loyal does not mean blindly following what others want or expect. You should feel like you want to be loyal to someone based on their character and actions. To be aware of people who will use your loyalty to their advantage. The relationships you maintain should be fair and balanced and based on mutual trust, respect, and loyalty. Don't forget to allow for me time. This isn't selfish, but an act of preservation. Giving yourself time for self-care can prevent you from getting burnt out. Part of setting healthy boundaries is to make sure you are taking care of yourself. So yeah. I think that's probably a hard one for a lot of people. Or maybe not.
So I guess it depends your cultural background
Yes.
a lot.
I think that's a
Yeah.
good way to put it.
Because I mean, if you talk to somebody, for example, not to generalize or anything, but Asian culture in general puts family before yourself, right?
Right.
And so the idea of me time could be perceived as being selfish,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Where you do need some, and I think that it's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
So I think, excuse me. So when it comes to loyalty, where that's placed in this regard,
Yeah.
largely in Asian culture, would be around the family unit,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's not about yourself; it's about supporting the family unit.
Yep.
So I think it'll largely depend on your culture, but again, about being aware of people who will use your loyalty to their advantage.
Yeah.
That's another thing, right? And that's something where I think a lot of people they feel very guarded about.
Yes.
They don't give so much loyalty to others simply because they feel like it's going to be trampled on. It's just like, you have my heart, don't break it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, right? So,
Yeah.
and so it makes it difficult for people in that sense. But again, healthy boundaries is what we're talking about here.
Yep.
So I think in this case, it's about
Kind of like going back to what you said before, like you had a friendship and then you realize like that path, I can't go down that path. So
that's right.
that was your healthy boundary. Your boundary was like, here's a wall. I'm
it's like
turning the other way.
we're going in different directions, and this is not what I thought you were all about.
Yeah.
So goodbye.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it to that person, they feel like, well, I wasn't loyal. Like I've been loyal to you. You aren't loyal to me, and that's how they read that. But yeah, I was being loyal to me because the direction you're going, that's not going to lead down anywhere good.
Exactly.
So yeah, you have to recognize those types of things. And I think that a lot of people are challenged with that. That's why this is a building brick. This is why this takes, not everybody does it.
Exactly.
Right? So don't feel obligated to be loyal to people who demands it, especially. Loyalty is certainly like the idea of, like we were just talking about with, employees and employers and things like that. It's like, I always hear like of other bosses like saying like, you got to be loyal to the company and all this kind of stuff. And then there's this weird sort of demand of loyalty that like we're talking about now. I've never asked for that.
No.
Although here I am crying about not getting it.
Do you know what?
I've never forced it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that my expectation is I'll earn it, right? And the hope is that by the way I treat people, I'm going to have that reciprocated.
Yeah.
It just hurts when it's not.
I know. But that's why you practice the 3 ways.
That's right. That's right. You got to keep doing. You just got to keep going. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So that's it for today in loyalty. Thank you all so much for joining us. Next week's building brick will be acceptance, and we'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
Thank you for listening to Enter the Bunker. Make sure to follow us on Instagram where you can share your story and also look at behind the scenes of how we make our podcast. You can watch the video version of this podcast on YouTube by simply searching Enter the Bunker. Tune in next time as we launch into thriving.